Once again, we're at the tail end of Invictus, and we're going to cover Star Citizen Live, and we're going to hit on a few major points that they talk about throughout Star Citizen Live. And I'd like to know what you guys think about all of this. So, hit me up in the comment section, hit me up in chat. Give me your opinion, give me your thoughts. Let me know what you think about all of this. And let's go ahead and start this right about here.
Hosmer helped me, but I got a great cat PTV to fly around, and it had two giant scaled up arms with fists in the front.
Right here.
I could just fly around. So I mean, I feel like we're on the same wavelength, man. I feel like
we can make it happen.
I feel like we can make it happen.
Submersible variant.
What?
Oh, don't start the spaceship submarine argument again.
Come on.
All right, so we're about halfway through.
This is what I wanted to hit on.
Let's
this
jump
is the
into
first
some backer
part
questions.
that I want to hit
jump into
on.
some back questions. So these were questions that were submitted on Spectrum and voted up by you, the viewers, and in no particular order here. Saw this one coming. How do you expect to work through the backlog of ships? And at what point in the game can we expect larger ships such as the Kraken, Polaris, and Perseus? Now,
Excellent question.
One question. So, but
so I already want to preface this with, they're already annoyed. I forgot to make this big. My bad. They're already annoyed because they're being asked a one question. Now, before I started, about a year before I started, maybe a year and a half before I started, they put out a thing saying they were getting very upset with people asking the when question and people being roadmap watchers. They don't like that because when they don't meet a deadline, the players and the fans call them out on it and they don't like it. So I just want you to know why they have become suddenly, why Jared has suddenly become annoyed. Thank you, JT. I appreciate that. And thank you all for the 9 likes this morning or this afternoon or evening, wherever you may be in the world. And I appreciate you spending your time here.
Let's go with the core here. How are we expecting to work through this backlog?
Cool. I'll start and then others can chime in if they want. So the last year or so, we've been really sort of improving and
it is just an idea board.
Work better. Mark and Corey have done a great job revitalizing all the documentation that sort of I wrote years ago and we've just lived with. But because I've done more and more leadership and directorship, I've not been so hands-on with things. So they've taken that over and built the pipeline. The last 2 ships we've released have gone through sort of that new pipeline and things have mostly gone smoother. Still doing some tweaks as we go. But ultimately, at the end of the day, big ships need a lot of resources to make them. And where we want to get to is a place where we're still delivering the same amount of content as we do now a year, as well as 1 to 2 capitals a year on top of that and supporting all the other teams like we do. And at the end of the day, that just needs more people. So
you want to get to the point of delivering 1
Yes.
to 2 capitals a ship.
Yes.
So I want you guys to understand what you just heard. They want to get to that point where they can get 1 to 2 capitals out a year. They are not to that point right now. So we're probably not going to get a capital ship this year. I just want to make that very clear. My opinion is that we will not get the RSI Galaxy this year. Okay? As much as people want that ship, I highly, highly, highly doubt we are going to get the RSI Galaxy this year. And I'm not sure if it's on the roadmap or was on the roadmap, but one of the things that you have to do, and Grumpy Eye is the one that pointed this out, if you really want to know what's going on the roadmap, you need to click on who's working on it and where it's being worked on. That will give you a very good indicator as to how far along they are on that particular project. So I just want you guys to be aware of that. Okay? Just because it shows up on the roadmap and it says it's in production doesn't mean it's in white box, doesn't mean it's in gray box. It could mean that it's only in artist concept or pre-production. If it's an artist concept or it's in pre-production, it means it's probably going to be a few more months before they even get it to white box, if they get it to white box. And just because they get it to white box doesn't mean it's going to be fast tracked through to being done for the next event. The only ship that I will say right now will be done for the next major event will be the Sankoi Tai or whatever it is, the alien bug ship. That will be out and available for Alien Week. What is it, in like 2 months, a month, something like that? That'll be out. I guarantee you that'll be out. But there will be no capital ships this year. I would put a bet on the fact that there's not going to be a capital ship this year. I think it was Grumpy Eye pointed out in one of his chats that the last capital ship to be put out was the 890 Jump, and that was released, I believe, in the spring or summer of 2019. So it's been almost 4 years.
You're not saying that we are at that point,
We're
right?
not at that point yet. We're building to that point. So the last few months we've been starting to expand the team, which people have probably seen with the introduction of the Montreal vehicle team. And we're also looking for more artists in the UK. So if people are watching,
Yeah, and any
Please apply.
You know any good leads?
yeah, any lead artists watching.
replace Corey.
Yeah, because shout.
A little plug.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon. A lot of there are, these shows do serve multiple purposes, and they're absolutely, from the conversations that I have to have with the talent acquisition team every single week, they're definitely a hiring tool.
Run the ads and basically just run
This is the ad.
our page.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're presenting to these people who it would be that they're working with. So
So they're saying that they need a bigger team. Once again, here's my issue with them asking for a bigger team. And I'm trying not to be super negative, but they're asking for a bigger team to get this stuff out. But haven't we been told that a majority of the team has been pushed to Squadron 42? So why don't you either, and I hate saying this, why don't you either put up or shut up with Squadron 42 and move on to what we all backed and what the original Kickstarter was, which was Star Citizen and the Persistent Universe, or drop the damn game and move on. I know why they can't drop it, because there would be lawsuits galore, but this has gone on long enough. You can't keep shooting their backlog is because they shot themselves in the foot. And the problem is every time they release a new map or a new ship, Call of Duty or whatever, I don't know what I'm thinking right now, but every time they put out a new ship, they're not letting the bullet hole in their foot heal. They're shoving their finger back through it and jiggling it around, causing mass bleeding again, because they just got further behind on their backlog. So now we need to hire more people for the backlog ships. That doesn't make sense to me. Porkchop just pointed out. So this year, we're not going to include IAE. They released the Storm, the Fury, and the Lynx all this year. Couldn't have those resources been used on ships that are currently sitting in the backlog instead of on new ships? I understand why they did it. They need new money to come into the project. I am the minority here. I think the Fury, as cool as it looks, is a waste of time, is stupid, shouldn't have been made. I think the Lynx, although it was announced in 2014, is also stupid, was a waste of time. And the Storm, while it does look cool, it is, once again, it's another waste of time. What do we actually need a light tank for right now in current gameplay? We don't. We don't. So, I'm going to skip over the BMM. So for those that don't know, the Banu Merchantman. The Banu Merchantman has been a long-standing point of contention between the fans and the backers and the developers. It was announced, I believe, 10 years ago. It's hasn't been, time has not been kind to the Banu Merchantmen. It's been worked on, stopped, worked on, stopped, worked on some more, then stopped. Well, I have some bad news. Okay. I'm not going to show it on here where I'm not going to let them discuss it for 10, 15 minutes like they do. But here's the bad news. Last year, they had a 9-man or 10-man team working on the Banu Merchantmen. They're all gone. They're all gone. They had another team come in of at least a couple of guys, and they started working on the Banu Merchantmen again. Those guys left. So now the Banu Merchantmen is once again been taken off the roadmap, has been put on the corkboard wall with all their other backlog ships, and it's got a pin in it indefinitely right now. They need to rehire a new team, and they're going to get in. Like I said, I'm not going to react to them for 15 minutes discussing the Banu Merchantmen and the people that came, the people that left, and the fact that they're now rehiring for the Banu Merchantmen again. But that's where we're at with the BMM. The Banu it's off the tables for right now. So those that came here expecting me to give you good news about the Banu, I'm sorry, it's bad news. It's off the table. It's probably not going to happen for another couple of years. Michael, welcome to the stream. It's difficult for me to take this development seriously. Like it or not, the developers need to pay more attention to weapons tech. There are too many things that exist now that aren't in the game. Oh, I agree. There's another streamer, Marcus Wynn, and that's on YouTube, and then another streamer named Canop, who's on Twitch. We've made fun of the fact that grav boots, which once again those were introduced in either 2015 or 2016 at a CitizenCon. Those haven't made it into the game, and we call that lost tech. We also call polarized windshields lost tech, along with night vision. Night vision is also lost tech. So, it's 2953, but we lost a lot of tech along the way. All right, I'm going to skip this forward to the next big spot.
So let's go to we got next two questions are some of those perennial questions here. First, when is ship modularity?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even need to read it, do I? But it says, has there been any progress on modularity since it was last talked about?
Yes. Good news.
So he said yes. Now we all know. Once again, I'm not trying to poo-poo on these guys, but we all know how much of a sore point this has been from the backers and the fans about ships not having modularity. I don't know if you guys know this. Some of you may, some of you may not. Did you know all three variants of the Cuddy Black aren't even supposed to exist? Those were supposed to be modules. The Vanguard series, modules. The Retaliator, modules. RSI Galaxy, modules. The Carrack, modules. I'm sure there are more ships that I have forgotten about or don't know, because there's like 240 or 250 ships that exist. Some of them done, some of them on the backlog, but there's a lot of modular ships, and a lot of people pledged so that they could have the ability to swatch out the modules. So
News at last. Good news.
Well, we'll be the
Good
judge
news.
of that. We'll be the judge of that.
So,
you ready, chat?
you ready,
Eyes on the
chat?
track, guys. Come on.
Yep. So with the development of the Hull C, we've pretty much figured out the last hurdle. And in fact, Chris is responsible for the test that I got him to do for it, where we can have object containers, which is the interior collection of assets, loaded as an item, loaded onto the ship, because that's how the rear of the Hull C is attached to the ship and moves with it. What had stopped us technically going any further with this was items inside those object containers couldn't talk to the vehicle it was connected to.
Right.
So the example of the Retaliator, the torpedo droppy arms, they're actually part of the exterior of the ship currently, because that's the only way they can work. So if we allowed you to swap the modules, no matter what module you had, there'd be a pair of torpedo arms dangling through the middle of it. Chris did a test where he attached a load of missile racks and torpedoes to the inside of the back of the Hull C.
Now
which
that
is
would
not
be
gonna ship
hilarious.
with it.
Wait, you're saying we're not
Unless we
having a
accidentally
torpedo
did it.
Hull C?
Yeah.
There is a shelf that says "Do not submit" in very large letters.
And the pilot had full control of that, and they could fire them. So after the Hull C ships and we found any more quirks with that setup, we're in a position where, to my knowledge, touch wood, technically there's nothing stopping us doing modularity now.
I want you guys to really take in what he just said. There is nothing technically stopping them from ship modularity. Let that sink in for a second. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to repeat it. There is nothing technically stopping them from ship modularity. I'm going to let him continue before I give you my opinion.
That was the last big hurdle for it.
There's nothing technically stopping us from doing
Nothing-
it, but there's
nothing-
also priorities and
It might
be
things and
logistics.
building a team.
Nothing technically stopping us.
Yeah, nothing technically stopping us. Yeah.
So what I heard was that whole CMX at CitizenCon.
Oh yeah, just full of size 9 torpedoes.
All of the cargo arms are just full of torpedo racks that just fire out.
All right.
Okay, so that's where they're going to leave it. That's where they're going to leave it. They're not going to give you a when. They're not going to give you a where. They're not going to give you a how. But they technically have nothing stopping them from ship modularity. They made it past the last hurdle. You heard John Crew say it. They made it past the last hurdle. Let's take some bets. When are we going to actually see ship modularity? When are we going to actually see it? I'm trying not to shit on these guys. I really am not. But when are we going to see it? When are we going to see the ship modularity? And what ship will it be? I don't think they have any plans to get any ships with modularity out to us anytime soon. And I don't think they have any plans to actually have any of the modules ship with that particular ship. So let's say they do get let's say they do get the RSI Galaxy out, or they do get one of the older ships on the backlog with modularity out. I don't think you're going to see those modules come out with the ship. I think we are still quite a ways away from them actually jumping onto ship modularity. Their backlog, as I said, somebody did the math. It's 40 years worth of labor. That's not linear. That's not linear in a straight line. That's just 40 years of combined labor to complete all the ships. That was last fall, and that was at their current staffing. I don't know what their current staffing is now. I think it's up to 900 or 1,000 people now, but you know, and that's the thing that scares me, Jim. That comment right there. Why make it modularity when you can just charge for another variant? That's what scares me. Squirrel, I hope you're right. I hope you're right. I hope it's 2 years. I really do hope it's 2 years. And I hope in those 2 years we get Squadron 42, because they need to put up or shut up about that game now. Like that's kind of how I feel about it. When I first became a backer a year ago now, I didn't know what Squadron 42 was. It took me about a month, maybe 2 months of playing the game before I realized there was a standalone single-player game. I've told the story before, but that's not what I pledged for. And I would assume about 70 to 90% of the people that actually play Star Citizen never actually backed for Squadron 42. It's Star Citizen in the persistent universe. That's what we want. So it's time to get the game out. It's time to put your money where your mouth is, and let's go. We got to get this. We got to get the ball rolling. Where are we at? Let's let them continue for a minute.
Next one, we're just going to put the camera right on John Crew. Physicalized damage. This has been
This is a good
This has
one.
been one of those, when we talk about things that hold up this system or that system, the idea of bullets and ballistics and then passing through and damaging the components within a ship has been linked to be the keystone to so many other developments. Anything you can tell us about physicalized damage?
Good news part 2.
Oh.
So it is really under heavy active development at the moment. So physics team
Well, that's
have done
good.
a lot of work in the last 6 months on it. We're now at a point where other feature and gameplay teams have joined them to sort of work out the quirks with it. The vehicle content team have provided assets of ships set up in this new way of doing things. Should caveat this, it's not a vehicle thing, it's an everything thing. Every destructible system in the game will use this. So whilst everyone sort of uses the vehicle example of like, bullets going through ships, it replaces the prop breakable system, it replaces the environment breakable system.
Cool. We're going to have
it replaces
asteroids
the
that blow
vehicle
apart.
damage system. There's another one I forget. So environment teams, prop teams, vehicle teams,
Hopefully
we're
the
all
ground
working on
gets
this
big
at the
craters
moment.
when you drop a size 10 Moab
There's
on it.
bunch of use case scenarios that are with the
So
engineers.
it's more like an overall destructible physics system.
Yes, yeah.
My question is with persistent entity streaming and the amount of shit we already have in the game that people drop off and leave everywhere, and garbage that we can't clean up anymore because we can't use tractor beams in stations because, why allow the players to have fun in a station with a tractor beam? How much more pressure is this going to put on the server? How many more memory leaks are we going to have that's going to cause us 30K? That's my question. This all sounds awesome. Like, I want to be able to blow apart an asteroid, not with a mining thing, but I want to be able to shoot a size 9 torpedo at one of those freaking continent size asteroids and watch it just blow into pieces. I want to drop a size 10 Moab and watch a giant crater form from where it hit. I want to see all of that. I want to be able to shoot my laser repeaters or my I forget, it's not the Scorpion. I forget what the size 2 is. Maybe the size 2 is the Scorpion, and or the AD5M or whatever it is, the big ballistic Gatling you can put on the Vanguards and shred a ship to pieces and have that guy hit me up over comms and be like, you just shredded the shit out of my plane. I got nothing. Or my ship. I got no power. I got no shields. I got nothing. Stop shooting me. I'll give up. I want that gameplay to happen, but at what cost to the servers? At what cost? The ship thing, I think, will be easy enough to do. It's the environment that concerns me. And if they're this far on the physical damage, does that mean we're going to get armor soon? Is it ship armor going to be a thing soon? And if ship armor is a thing soon, does that mean they're going to go back and rework body armor for a person? Because I think that would be the next step in that. Oh, EMP bombs would be awesome. Cluster munitions, laser guided munitions. Hell, even fly-by-wire munitions where you got to control it like with a little camera and stuff. That would be really cool stuff.
People have probably heard the word Maelstrom in various monthly reports and pieces.
Checking whether that's legit or
It's
not.
not a ship.
I'll wipe the board when we get back.
Right.
So that's the name of that overarching system. It's definitely been said.
In all offense, it's just the name for the system that they already knew was coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's the
But-
It's not a ship.
project
It's
name.
But by
the name
giving
of the
something
system.
a name, you give it power.
But it's more than just the physicalized damage for
That's
ships.
true,
It-
Johan.
It is a global
Yeah.
destructible physics system that we're not going to sit here and commit to it being applied to every single element of Star Citizen.
No.
There's always going to be performance considerations. But you develop the system, and then you start to see where you can plug it in and apply
You'd
it.
find use cases for it. It'd be like a general system.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be cool. Okay, so they are saying there's going to be limitations to it. So, okay.
Hi, Chris. Let's see, what else we got? Ship tractors.
Yeah,
The
we're
ship
gonna
tractor beams
we're
were
gonna
recently
skip over
brought up
the
again.
ship tractors. I mean, it's cool, but that's not what a lot of us are here for. And I kind of went over it already. We're going to jump in right here.
Doing it for Squadron first, and then it'll work its way into the P when we're happy with what we need to do for Squadron.
That's pretty good, Johan. Yeah,
Would
I
there
agree.
be a way to dock a reclaimer to a station in the future to avoid needing to go down to the planet to retrieve it?
So we want
This is very important. I'm going to back it up another where are we at here? I'm going to back it up just a little bit. I want you to hear this question that they're going to ask, that is asked, because it leads into the backlog.
To say it's not really got MFDs to the right metrics anymore.
Right.
Doing it for Squadron first.
Same
and then
squirrel.
it'll work its way into the P when we're happy with what we need to do for Squadron.
Okay, listen up, fellas.
Would there be a way to dock a reclaimer to a station in the future to avoid needing to go down to the planet to retrieve it?
So we wanted that originally for the original implementation of the docking collars, but we found that the current positioning of the arms and the engines were off. So we're going to have to go in and fix that, as well as I think we found the actual doors were the wrong size as well. So we need
The
to
door
sort
is
them
just
as well.
some
I
random
think we looked
door.
at that and we did some work towards.
No, we wanted to do it. We just
Okay.
didn't have time when we were doing all the other
Docking
salvage
collars.
work.
Yeah. So
So I don't know if you guys heard that. Eventually it will dock. But you heard that though, right? The arms and the engines are in the way and the door is the wrong size. So you know what that means, right?
Yeah.
it's wanted, but it's going to require changes to the exterior, the physical arms and everything, which are very complicated mechanisms. So it's a big time investment. So it's something that's going to get done, but it's when we can find resources to actually do it. Because, like you said, with the ramp up, every time we try and expand the team, we're losing resources to actually train the new people that are coming in.
So complete rework for the reclaimer.
Complete rework.
I was trying to make a joke and then I got the names mixed up.
There's certainly a lot
It's
of
pretty
room for
much going to be a
improvement
complete.
with the reclaimer.
Like the rear
Rework.
cargo lift and everything needs
Yeah,
probably
the
doing.
whole rear section of everyone's favourite multi-stage elevator,
Wait, did you say Starfarer or Reclaimer?
reclaimer.
Okay, so Starfarer is perfect.
Staffer is not perfect.
The Starfire is having its insides pulled out, redone completely.
So you guys, I don't know if you guys are catching all of this. They basically said the entire exterior of the reclaimer is going to have to be redone, along with the back end of it is going to have to be redone. So that's how basically the entire ship is getting reworked. And then you heard what they just said about the Starfarer. The Starfarer, they're going to go in and completely redo the interior of it. So I don't know how much time that equates to. I don't know how much time that equates to when they are doing these kind of reworks. But that's a lot. That sounds like a lot of time. Just by looking at their faces, it sounds like it's a lot of time.
Can I watch that? Can I watch you?
Stream it pay-per-view.
Absolutely.
We have personal feelings too. Let's see. We talked a lot about the capital ships. Things like this. One of the most voted up questions here is about the Polaris. Simply put, is the
Sorry for pausing yet again. I've seen on Spectrum, I've seen on Reddit, it's been brought up in my chat, it's been brought up in other people's chat, that the Polaris is on the roadmap. And I've heard I don't know who said it, but somebody was like, oh, it'll be done in the next 4 months, 3 to 4 months it'll be done. I heard, I saw on Reddit, they were saying 6 months it'll be done. By IAE, it'll be done. I want you guys to once again, pay attention. This is why I said you have to make sure you click on the thing when it's on the roadmap.
the Polaris actually in production? It shows that it is on the progress tracker, but the Apollo was once on the progress tracker at one point as well, and priorities change, and yada, yada, yada. So we'll go to Camera John here. But there's one more. Camera John. There we go. Oh, no, Ben, that just sounded like Ben wanted the question.
No, I didn't.
Oh,
want
good.
the
Ben,
question.
no, you were talking crap
think it's
about it.
only
Okay,
fair.
Ben.
All right.
So is the Polaris in production?
I'm going to start with the Apollo.
Let's talk about capital ships and when they're in development. So Apollo.
The Apollo is now a capital ship.
Yeah, it got through so much.
don't.
All right, we'll talk about the Polaris. So the Polaris is I'd say it's more in pre-production. Like, we are spending time investigating it at the moment, as we've already kind of hinted on.
The Polaris is in pre-production.
When it comes to doing our capital ships, we want to make sure that we're tackling them in a way that allows us to scale up to not just do one capital ship and we can tick off a few more from the lineup. It is like literally the last couple of weeks we've been looking at it, breaking down the concept, breaking down what is involved with actually delivering it. I think what people need to understand as well is, this is quite an old ship. The concept is quite old. There's a lot of gaps in it, as Corey mentioned. So really, we're just doing our kind of, our sanity check on everything. Make sure we've got everything in progress. It will be going into full production
Very soon.
shortly. Yeah, very, very soon.
Very soon, TM.
So it's in pre-production. They're doing all their checks, and then it's going to go into full production. That doesn't mean that it's going to go into full production next week, next month, or the month after that. Other things could take priority, and it could get bumped off. It could get pushed up in priority, and it could be done in a few months. My guess is not this year. It won't happen this year. I don't think the Polaris is going to be done this year. I would, if I was a betting man, Invictus next year, Polaris. That's, if I was a betting man, that's what I would put my bet on.
Chris deleted the old interior setup level for it this afternoon, ready for the new one. So that's how soon it is.
We are working on it.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah,
it
it's-
isn't a full team on it yet.
Okay.
We're doing the pre-productions.
That's
we're in the pipeline last time. There's been a lot of.
So basically,
pre-planning
pre-production
changes
means there's an
like,
artist
help
working
us
on it.
further, not have us trip over ourselves. So it is in production in that sense.
Yeah,
It's
it
just-
hasn't started like
artist hasn't
white
cracked
boxing.
open
Yeah,
Max,
like we haven't started
making
like
the walls.
adding assets to the editor and stuff, but we are basically doing a full breakdown of what we've got, working out how we're going to tackle it, trying to get the plans in place, and answer the questions. There's some holes in the concept which we could do with a little bit more work on, and they're a bit loose. So it's just kind of breaking down that stuff. But we're not like, we haven't got a team of artists that work on it. We have one, and then I look at it every so often. Corey sticks his nose in it, and it's just.
So he said they have a team of one.
We want to come to a point where we can come together, have a proper kick-off with the team that are working on it, and go, okay, we know what we're asking you to do, rather than being like, hey, everyone, let's have a look. Click. This is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and to touch on the roadmap bit, something that often gets overlooked on the roadmap is
They definitely are
doesn't
porked up.
particularly show like people moving on and off projects or tasks. So you could have like someone on the Polaris for 1 week, and they go off it for a week, and then they go back on it for another week. That will show as 3 weeks continuous. Or you could have one person come on, one person go off, then another person comes on, and that will show 2 people for that entire time. In conjunction with that, we've, as part of all of our pipeline work, we've been moving away from our previous scheduling method, which is what the roadmap uses, to being more in Jira. And then, because that live updates with the data as we're working through things, and then at some point we go back and put it in there. So there is a bit of lag in how the roadmap updates. So yes, people have been working on it, but it's not like hey, we've got 8 artists working on it since 2 weeks ago when the roadmap said.
I was going to say, like with the Apollo, because the Apollo was mentioned as well, is that's pretty much what we've done on the Apollo. We had one artist working on it, doing all the pre-production work, making sure it was in a good state.
So he just said it again. When it's in pre-production, they have one artist working on it. That artist, I would assume, is scaling everything, getting the interior scaled, getting it to all line up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they move on to a round table, and then from the round table, they get their team together, they get to a round table. From the round table, they go to white box and then start moving forward down the line. But it does not sound like at any point within this year, the Polaris or the Apollo is going to be done. I would assume Invictus next year for the Polaris. But, and I said that as a betting man, if I were to do a bet, that's when I would make my bet for is Invictus next year. But that we all know how Influx Star Citizen is. That could be shot to shit in 3 months. We really don't know.
Answering all the questions that were unanswered on it, so it's ready to go into production. It is not in production. We haven't got a whole team of artists working on it, but we've done all that preliminary work, and that's why it's not been on the roadmap, because someone's been allocated to it, they've been chipping away at it and getting it ready.
All right, let's see. Next question says, some ship designs have flaws with component swapping.
This is another one I wanted to hit
How will
on.
this be addressed on legacy ships, and especially where components won't fit past doors or airlocks and things like ladders?
This is about legacy ships.
I can go with it. So gold, a lot of that's what gold standards for. So when we go through and do gold standards, using the
Also, remember, they did say, and I don't remember exactly when, I would have to look and look and look and look. In order for a ship to make it into Squadron 42, it's got to make sure it's in the gold standard format. Now, from what I understand, there's only a handful of ships that have gotten the gold standard passed on to it, and those probably even still need to be updated a little bit as well. So I want you to, once again, Chad, I want you to pay attention to what they're saying about the legacy ships, components not being able to be taken out or fit, or because of a ladder, a railing, etc. I want you to really pay attention to what they're saying here, because this, I think, should be a lot of what you're basing your expectations on.
Retaliator, as an example, a lot of the components wouldn't fit through the doors of the Retaliator as you tractor beam them out and move them, so the doors and things have been widened so they would actually fit. Another thing is what components are actually meant to be taken out with tractor beam. So it's size 3, and capitals obviously aren't meant to be tractor beamed out. You're supposed to go to a dry dock and someone else will take it out for you because they're too large of components.
Size 3 and larger.
Theoretically, to get to them, you need to cut parts of the hull
Can't
out
take them
because
out.
they're just too large for a person to lift. So the size 0, 1, and 2, you should be able to tractor beam out. Doors that don't fit currently, gold standard will address that, but until we do gold standards on the interiors of a lot of the ships, there may be doors where you can't get them out or places you can't get the components through.
There is a couple like random occasions where like we get like as artists like, oh, can you jump on this ship for like, you know, it's like a half an hour fix to allow you to get your components out your ship, and like we have those, we've got all of the ships like divvied up amongst ourselves, so like even though people leave and people join, there's like the list of all of the ships, and it's like, okay, you're responsible for these. So if there's a component swapping issue on like a particular ship, that like one of mine, I've forgotten which one it was, but I had to like re-move around a little bit of the room. Nothing players would really notice, but like it's just enough to make the collision a bit more comfortable to move it out. So you get occasions like that where you'll get like a random like bug come through, and it's like, oh, if you've got a spare 10 minutes to do that, you quickly look at it, you're like, oh yeah, that's a really quick fix that will hopefully make your lives a lot easier. So we do try to, even though we're like,
Okay, so that's cool.
you know, I'm on this ship for X amount of time, I will disappear for like an hour or two if it saves you guys the grief, you know.
It depends on the amount of work, right? So
Yeah,
like,
yeah. If it's like a massive overhaul, like obviously that takes.
None of the
we need,
doors.
but if I can like sneak it in, like I'll try, you know.
Some of it's really quick wins, like when the ship was initially modeled, or when someone created the component base, they just forgot to like cut a hole in the collision for the components. So it's literally impossible to remove it because it's like behind the collision of the exterior, for
I think
example.
like, you know, a lot of our ships were made before we had like there was no feature work had been done on it, so we didn't know how.
So it sounds like some of these ships are really easy to fix. So I'll give them
now
that.
we know better.
Yeah.
So that pipeline has evolved, and some of them are super quick. Some of them are like, this door has no animation. It has no mechanics to do the animation. There's just a hole behind it, and they're the ones that take a bit more time. You know, they need a proper art pass, proper design pass.
That's why they call it game development and not game construction.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Vanguard's a good example, right? Had that little railing, which from that point looked nice, having that little railing as you
That
go
the
up the
one I did?
stairs. I think so, where you just
That
cut
was
the
the one I
railing
did,
off.
yeah.
It's,
Yeah, I
it's a
just
small
removed
little
the rail,
thing, easier to do, but like at the time when we did it, looked good from that standpoint. No one really thought, oh, that railing's going to get in the way of the components, because it wasn't something that people actively
Same
thought about.
with some of the component hatches that have doors that sort of clamshell open.
Yeah.
They were done so they open it, looks nice and cool, and like, yeah, it'll fit out there.
You can
But
get
then
the
when
stuff-
it comes to actually taking it out,
just
they're like, they're a centimetre not far open enough.
Yeah.
So there's all sorts of little things that you don't spot.
And this is the kind of stuff that happens with any video game. It's just
Yeah.
usually they don't have a live environment in the middle
Yeah.
of their development.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's kind of it's just tech debt really. Like, you know, a feature comes online, it gets proven out, and then if we have to re-implement that into a bunch of like existing assets, you know, we try our best to anticipate what kind of features will be coming, but we don't necessarily know how that feature will work. So, you know, part of the challenge of being sort of a team that's affected by a feature is you have to then retroactively support it, you know. So I think that's a big part of what Gold Standard is. These are all the features we need to support in our vehicles.
I'm wondering if Gold
basically
Standard
making those
changes
vehicles comply with those
often.
features.
We had it with salvage as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
it was like exactly the same thing where it was like, oh, there's like loads of quick fixes we can do, or like, okay, we need to dedicate some time to this. And then when Salvage first came online, we like had quite a few of us working on it to really try and like get that stuff sorted out. And other ships that were made maybe more recently, or whenever like particular ships, you go to fix it and you're like, this is fine.
Yeah,
great.
It becomes a part of your, you know, your validation. It becomes a part of the like acceptance criteria for the ship. Is it needs to support this feature. So you know, we would bring those features into the like review process.
Yeah,
and
would
basically make sure actually, if we're making a new ship, it should should have physicalized components, etc. That all of the features that exist for the ship will be, you know, validated as a part of the review process. So. It's more the older content.
I just want to know what passes for gold standard and does it constantly change.
Kind of discovering what a ship.
It's why each one of these that we make, we get better at it.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
The Rock DS.
It's fine.
All right, guys. I'm not gonna let them go any further because like I said, we could dissect this hour and 10-minute video for 2.5 hours. I think they hit on some very good points here. You know, we're looking at there's let me change this real quick. I gotta fix the green screen. I gotta do that. I think they hit on some good points here. Like really good points. Let me see if this works. They hit on some really good points here. There's nothing really holding them back for modularity. You said that they've technically gotten past the last hurdle. The question is when are we going to get the fix for that hurdle? When are we going to start seeing the how do I put it? When are we going to start seeing that actually happen within the game? Or is it just going to be more of the, here's another variant? I hope we don't get that. I hope that they fix their backlog. I hope that they can get these modular ships online and get the modules out to us. But it's a question of when and are they? Another key point that I thought was really cool was the physical damage and how it's going to take how it's not going to just affect ships and ship components, but props and environment as well. So I thought that was a pretty cool conversation. It's once again, what are they going to do? What are they going to do with it as far as what's going to be destructible, what's going to be affected, and what's not, and how is that going to affect the server and the server tick rate? I hope we can get an answer to that within the next year. We know how Star Citizen moves. The reworks. That was another thing that was highlighted on here, is that it sounds like a lot of ships are going to need a rework. They discussed two ships in particular that really needed big time reworks, and that was the Reclaimer and the Starfarer. And they discussed that the engines, the engine arms, and the docking doors they're in the wrong spot, and the doors are too small. So, and the entire cargo area needs to be reworked. So basically you're looking at an entire rework of the Reclaimer. You know, they may say it's only a partial rework, but it sounds like it's pretty much an entire rework for the Reclaimer. I'm not saying it's going to look different, but it's definitely going to function different as far as how the arms, the engines, and possibly the cargo area work. You know, we all know the issues with the cargo elevator back there. Sometimes they patch it and it gets fixed. Sometimes a new patch comes out and it breaks it again. Lastly, before we move on from that, the reworks. No, it's too big. It's too big. It can only, from what I understand, and chat, please correct me if I'm wrong, I've only flown a Reclaimer 3 times, it cannot fit on the old pads. It's too big. It hangs off. Like you can do it at an angle, but I don't think it'll allow the repair and restock and refuel and all of that to actually initialize with it. The I think the only way that you can actually get that to trigger is to call for a landing pad and get the big landing pads. I think that's it. Also with the reworks, they were talking about how a lot of the legacy ships need to have their component doors and or what was it? The component doors, some of the collision boxes, and little aesthetic things like ladders, railings, and whatnot have to be moved, chopped, widened, have a hole put in it, or animations created for it. So it sounds like some of it is going to be quick fixes, and some of it will be really easy to do. But at the same time, it sounds like there's going to be a handful of ships that's going to be very, very difficult to do and may take quite a bit of time. And as I said, I don't remember where I saw it, but from what I understand is in order for a ship to make it into gold standard, or excuse me, for a ship to make it into Squadron 42, it has to be gold standard first. So they have quite a bit of backlog to go through there as well. So you have the gold standard backlog, and you have just the ship backlog that they haven't started on. So we're looking at years. We're looking at decades upon decades upon decades of labor time that needs to be used. And I don't want people to think that that's linear. Like it's going to be 42 years from now, or it's going to be decades upon decades upon decades from now. It's just the amount of accumulated labor time that it's going to cost to get all that stuff up and running. So don't jump in the comments and say, well, you said it's going to be 42 years from now. It's 42 years of compiled labor. The ship does, there's a segment I skipped over. I'm glad you brought that up, Pork Chop. There's a segment that I skipped over in that where they talked about the Carrack is supposed to have the blast shields on the cockpit, very similar to the Mirai Fury, and it's supposed to have side panel doors. There is side panel doors on there, they just don't function. That very young blonde-haired artist, he said that he's been assigned the Carrack, and he is currently working on the blast doors, or the blast things that are supposed to cover the cockpit. He's working on that. He's also going to be working soon on the doors. Now, he thought that both the blast shield that goes in front of the cockpit and the doors would be easy. He said it turned out that he's wrong. It's not easy, and he's been having a hard time with it, but he's currently working on it. So we may see that sometime soon. How soon? I don't know. Lastly, on the keynotes that we took away from that is the talk of the town, the talk of the community has been the Polaris is on the roadmap. It's coming out in the next 3 months. It's coming out in the next 6 months. You guys heard it. You guys heard it right from their mouth. It's in pre-production. They have a singular one artist on it right now, and he is working on the layouts of the interiors, matching it up with the exteriors, and getting a bunch of other things lined up and ready to go before. And you heard how they do their ship designs. It goes from an artist lining everything up and getting it the way that Chris Roberts wants it to be, to it goes to a round table. From the round table, they start divvying things up, and from the round table, it goes into actual production. And the first step of that is constructing it and then white boxing it out. So the Polaris is nowhere. It hasn't even entered white boxing. So I'm going to say Invictus 2024 is when we might start seeing that come out, or maybe get a confirmation as to when. We know how much they hate that. And then The other big takeaway, which I did not cover in the video, but I want to cover it again, was the Banu Merchantmen, or the BMM. The BMM has been on again, off again on the roadmap this past year. And the reasons for that is late last year, they had a 9-man team or 10-man team. They've all left Star Citizen. They no longer work there. They left. As far as what they've said, I didn't hear there was any animosity or ill will or anything like that. It was they just moved on to bigger and better things or a bigger paycheck. They started with a new, smaller team, and they said it once again. They said it on Star Citizen Live. I wasn't going to go through all of that, finding it again, and listening to them to discuss the comings and goings of their team for the 15 minutes. We would have turned it into 25 minutes. That small team has left as well, so that has been taken off the roadmap. It's back on the cork board with all the other backlog ships, and it's got a pin in it for now. When they discussed it, they said that one of the hardest things with getting people to work on the Banu Merchantmen is they don't really have a way for an artist to draw from other ships and put it into the Banu. The Banu is a mix of organic and technological things mixed together, and getting an artist to come in and get those two things to mix together like that is a really hard thing to do, and they have to bring that artist up to the standard that they want. So I'm sorry, Banu guys, but sorry. I know it's been 10 years, but I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. We got a lot of really good information out of this. It sounds like we're moving on the right track. It sounds like there's going to be a lot of things coming out in the next year or so. It just depends. Are they going to go Squadron 42 first, or are they going to bring it out to the Star Citizen Persistent Universe first? That's what I want to know. The things that I'm looking forward to the most that came out of this discussion was the modularity and the physical damage. I think that is something that's well needed within the Star Citizen universe right now, is the modularity that everybody bought into those many, many years ago, and the physical damage that, everybody's been wanting for a long time, especially when it comes to ballistics. I think we'll see the entire game flip on its head when physicalized damage becomes a thing. And I really hope that with physicalized damage that it doesn't just affect ships, vehicles, props, and environment. I hope they redo body armor. Body armor needs some love. It really does. And maybe in the coming year we can get all of this stuff. I really poop on CIG's head a lot in a lot of these Hot Take Tuna Tuesdays. Don't think that I'm doing it because I hate these guys or I'm angry with them or anything like that. I want to hold them at a higher standard. Like a boss holds me at high. I'm expected to perform at this standard, but the boss holds me to a higher standard. I kind of do the same thing with CIG. There's the regular video game industry and their standard, and I hold them to a higher standard. And I feel that we should all hold them to a higher standard, and we should all be critical of them without being. You can be critical without being a dickhead. You can. I think too many people take it when you be critical as you are just trying to be a dick and you're hating on the project. I don't hate on the project. I want to see it succeed. I don't want to see it fail. I want to see Star Citizen become the most talked about video game in the games industry, and to be the thing for the next 25 years that people try to achieve with their game. That's what I want to see. I don't know. That's my opinion. That's my hot take. We should hold them to a high standard. We should be critical of them, but we should do it in a way that we're not being dicks about it. Love-hate relationship with Star Citizen is normal, right? Yeah, it's it's normal. And Michael, I think I don't know what the age range is for everybody in here, but a lot of us grew up. It seems to me a lot of us grew up watching Star Wars, Star Trek, maybe even 70s Battlestar Galactica, Babylon 5, The Expanse, all of those shows and movies. And I think a lot of us, for many, many, many years in as far as the video game sphere is considered, many of us have wanted a game like Star Citizen so that we could live out being our Han Solos, our Luke Skywalkers, our Captain Picards, our I can't remember any of the guys' names from Babylon 5, to be Starbuck, to be Adama. We that's the stuff that we've always wanted to do entertainment wise, and we want it in a video game, and we want to be able to live that on our PCs. And I think we're getting closer to that. The big question is how long away is it in reality? With that, thanks for watching. So long. Thanks for all the fish.